Gaffel Kölsch.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. The sun is not out today, but I think it is over the yardarm and I think it's time for a beer. And that beer today is going to be Gaffel Kölsch from Cologne in Germany. Now, of course, I've reviewed Kölsch on the channel before. It's quite a unique style of beer. Very geographical in its brewing area. It's got EU protected status for its brewing area, just like Bavarian beer has. And if beer that's brewed 50 kilometres outside of Cologne in that style, it can't be called Kölsch. It has to be brewed within the 50 kilometres or 30 miles, if you like, of Cologne. And it's unique to that area, and it's got quite an interesting history. This is basically Cologne's answer to all of the bottom fermented beer that was becoming popular during the 15 and 1600s. All the brewers in Cologne at the time were basically trying to get bottom fermented beer stopped because it was threatening their trades. They were basically brewing top fermented beer, and it was suffering because the new bottom fermentation, or the lager style, or it would have been very similar to Keller beer back then, i.e. it wasn't filtered, it was cloudy. That was becoming more and more popular. So as a way around that, what they did, they were still top fermenting their beer because that had become law within Cologne. They had to use top fermenting beer, they had to make their beer using a warm temperature, i.e. the top fermentation, and they had to use top fermentation yeast as well. So the way around this was they would condition the beer or store it after it had been fermented like you would a lager. So it would be cold stored, if you like, or cold lagered, as lager is. And you got a weird hybrid of the two. And this style obviously caught on, and it's still surviving today. And in Cologne at the moment, there's the big three that brew Kölsch. Fru are probably one of the best known ones, and I've reviewed them on the channel. You've got Riesdorf, which I reviewed the other day. I'm not sure whether that's up yet or not, but that was a really good one. I really like that. And the last out of the three is Gaffel, and this is what I'm going to be trying today. And as I said, Kölsch is unique to that part of Germany. But there are brewers now that are brewing beer in this style and calling it Kölsch. Whether it's true Kölsch or not, you know, that is a matter of opinion. But in the eyes of the EU, when they're giving out this protected status, the only beer that can really be called Kölsch is the beer that's brewed within a 50-mile radius of Cologne. So, one last word on Kölsch. It is served in what's called a stanger, which translates to a pole. Now, this particular glass is a Pilsner glass, but the stangers, or poles, if you like, that you put Kölsch into, they look like that. And they're tall and they're straight. And they're usually 0.25 centilitres, or in this case, this is what this is. This is 2.5 centilitres. They're served in small servings like that. And there's a tradition in Cologne that you don't go up to the bar. You get table service, and if you finished your drink, you put a beer mat on top, and the waiter or waitress can see that, and they know that you want another beer. If you do this in the UK, if you leave a half filled, I don't know where, it might be different for different regions, but in London, if old boys do it, Now I don't think anybody's got any respect anymore, so they just fucking ignore it. But if I see an old boy and he's done that on a half a pint of beer and he's walked off, he basically means I've gone for a slash. Do not take this pint, it is not finished. So you get different pub customs wherever you go. Anyway, enough about that. Let's get on to the beer. Right, it's a 500ml bottle. This is brewed to the Reinheitsgebot, and that is a requirement of brewing Kölsch. It has to be brewed to the Reinheitsgebot, and the two that I've tried before, the Froh and the Restore, both brewed to the Reinheitsgebot. So you know what ingredients you get, and you get water, malted barley, hops and yeast. It's 4.8%, and that seems to be more or less the going rate on the ABV for Kölsch. It's around the 5% mark, if you like, and 4.8, yeah, is perfectly in keeping with that. Now this lot have been going since 1908, so they should know what they're doing when it comes to Kölsch. So let's see if they really do. Right, Magoo has got the bins on.
Well, it's good to see a cheerful face in these frantic days.
Magoo has got the cap lifter.
Oh, do you ever run those cartoons about that ridiculous little nearsighted old man?
So Magoo is going to get the bottle open.
Me, who never touched a drop in my life.
And there is the cap. Right, it's quite a nice cap. I do like that. Gaffel Kölsch, straight to the point. Of course, it's not pronounced Kölsch, it's Kölsch. The umlauts on the O make it sound like It's pretty similar to how Yorkshire people say, I'm going out and I'm going down the road.
I'll sit there then.
Very similar to that. It's my pathetic attempt at Yorkshireman. I'm determined to get Yorkshire into every single beer review that I do. They're fascinating. I think David Attenborough would have a fucking field day in Yorkshire. Anyway, enough about that. Let's get it into the glass. As I say, no more sniffing out the bottle. This is going to be sniffed out of the glass, yeah. Now there it is. Now, to all intents and purposes, it looks like a lager. It's light. It's got a fluffy head on it. That glass is filthy. I don't know why that is sticking like that. It's probably because of the ridges on the inside.
Disgusting.
What we got on the nose? Yeah. It smells like a typical Kölsch does. Quite hoppy. And it's them German noble hops again, Hallertau. What I call Hallertau hops. Of course, they may not be Hallertau hops. They could be Saaz, they could be Mittelfrüh, they could be the Tettnanger, or they could be Spalt. But they've all got similar sort of qualities to them, like spicy, earthy, and a little bitterness on them as well. So on this, yeah, we're getting that, but we're also getting some malt as well. Some quite sweet malt. Now, you might be thinking this is brewed the same as a golden ale. Halfway, yes. Golden ale will be top fermented and it will use top fermenting yeast, but it won't be lagered like this stuff is. So there's where you get your lager quality on this. So there's no nasties. It's always clear, and you won't get any nasty diacetyl or anything like that you normally, well, I say you normally do, but you sometimes do with a top fermenting ale. And there it is. That's what it looks like. And you know, your glass will look like this, and presumably you won't have the fucking filth around it. Look at the state of that. I really need to sort this dishwasher out.
Easy now, Cuddles. Don't be so enthusiastic.
It smells good. Let's see what it tastes like. Zum Wohl, as they say in Germany. And it's nice. It is very, very similar to a lager. And as I said before in my other two reviews, I think, was it two? I definitely said it in one of them. If you gave this to any Englishman, even your sort of well-respected beer reviewers and connoisseurs, and you know, you didn't tell them what it was, and you give them no indication, they'd say it was a lager, because it does taste like a lager. But there's very, very subtle differences. You do get a little more hop character, I think, than you do in most, not all, but most German lagers. But the differences are so subtle, and you can see why this style, while it was competing against lager, they probably knew that they were never going to take the market off lager. So they did the next best thing. They basically bent the rules. So if you're saying you can't brew beer using bottom fermentation, they say, right, well, we've done the next best thing. We've brewed it with top fermenting yeast, we've brewed it with top fermenting temperatures, but we're going to store it like a lager. And when you store that like a lager, you end up with this. Effectively, for all intents and purposes, it tastes like a lager. It's just brewed differently. And it's perfectly respectable. Very clean tasting, refreshing. It's just come out of the fridge. There's no nasties in there whatsoever. It's brewed to the Reinheitsgebot, so you're not going to get any, adjuncts or dodgy ingredients. And to me, it just tastes like a good, solid lager, even though it is a Kölsch and it's been brewed slightly differently. Is it the best? No, I think the Riesdorf stuff was the best, but Fru is not bad either. So they're all good. It's just they're up against a lot in Germany. Well, they're up against a mountain, really, with all the lagers there. And yeah, it is good. It's perfectly acceptable. It tastes just like a good German lager should do. There's the malt there. The malt's not too big. There's a bit more hop character. It's a little bit spicy on the back end, not much. But overall, all the characteristics are there. You've got the carbonation, you've got lemon citrus, very refreshing, lovely on a cold day, and no complaints. So what is the verdict on Kölsch? Well, the fact I'm pouring the rest out, because I'm going to drink it, says that I like it. I defy almost everyone to be able to tell the difference between this and a lager in a blindfold test. There are little things you can look out for, but the spice that's on there and the hop character, but to be honest, the only difference is in the way it's brewed. That's what I'm getting anyway. And on its own merits, I think it can compete with, some of the really good German lagers out there. Not the best. I don't think it's the best, but it's good. And I'm going to give that. I'll give it. What will I give that? I'll give it an 8 out of 10. There's nothing really there that's doing anything wrong. It's quite nice, actually. It's got the typical German character. It's quite light. It's got the noble hop flavour. So yeah, I think 8 out of 10 for Gaffel Kölsch is a fair mark. And I'd definitely recommend it. If you're in... Well, what I'd say to you, if you're in Cologne, then definitely try all three, because you'll get all three there. And this came from Beers of Europe. It was quite cheap. My advice to you, try all three, see what you think. I like the Fru. The Fru is the most popular, but it's not, it's not bad. The Riesdorf I thought was the best. I don't know, it may have just been the day because it was so hot. It was very refreshing and I liked it. But this is perfectly good as well. So out of all three, I didn't have a problem with any of them. They taste good. If you like your lagers, especially your German lagers, you're going to like this. And remember, beer is working class champagne.